It had been years since I looked forward to dinner at my parents' house, but this time, something inside me wanted it to be different. I'd left the office early, fought through Atlanta traffic for 2 long hours, just to sit at a table where I usually felt invisible. Mom always said, family dinners keep us grounded. Maybe tonight I'd finally be seen for who I've become. Not the kid's sister who needed help, but a woman who had carved out her own space, a marketing manager with a small apartment downtown. Nothing glamorous, but it was mine. I had my own name on the lease, paid every bill myself, and had been quietly saving. Their house looked the same: white shutters, manicured lawn, porch light already on, though the sun was still dipping. I parked behind Dexter's new black SUV. Of course, he was always ahead, even when he didn't know where he was going. Inside, the smell of rosemary chicken wrapped around me like a net. My mother, Seraphine, floated toward me, apron still on. "Vera, sweetheart," she said with that signature tilt of her head, the one that meant, "Be good, don't cause trouble." Dad, Gideon, looked up from his glass and nodded. On time for once. Dexter grinned, lounging like he owned the place. Look who remembered the address. We took our seats. Small talk skimmed the surface: traffic, weather, someone's retirement party I wasn't invited to. I tried to follow, tried to smile, but my chest buzzed with that hope that maybe tonight they'd acknowledge me not as a tag-along, but as a peer. Halfway through dinner, Gideon cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been talking," he said, leaning back, the king in his chair. "We've decided to help Dexter start off right." He reached into his jacket, pulled out an envelope, and slid it across the table. Dexter opened it with a dramatic flick. 15 grand, he said, eyebrows high, like he didn't already know. Applause, literal applause. Mom beamed, raised her wine. "To new beginnings." I was mid-bite when it hit. The silence in my throat was louder than their cheers. I set down my fork, forced a smile. "That's generous. What's the occasion?" Dad waved a hand. "It's time your brother put down roots. You, maybe rent somewhere a bit nicer first." The sentence landed like a cold slap. My face didn't flinch, but something inside me curled inward. Dexter chuckled. "Vera still thinks managing rentals makes her a real estate expert." Laughter followed, tight, easy, familiar. Mom added softly, "She always dreams big, but we worry she takes on too much." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I've been saving for years, actually." Gideon cut in. "Owning isn't for everyone, sweetheart." Sweetheart. The word felt like vinegar. In that moment, it was like I wasn't at the table at all. I was a ghost holding a fork, pretending to belong. I looked around. Dexter glowing, Mom glowing for him, Dad proud. None of them looked at me. Not really. Then came the final blow. "We're planning a little housewarming," Seraphine said cheerfully. "Just close family. Keep it intimate." I smiled. "Should I bring something?" A pause. She reached for her glass, voice dipping. "Maybe it's best you skip this one, darling. Don't make it awkward." And that was it. The unspoken line became spoken. I nodded, swallowed the shake in my throat. Of course, wouldn't want to ruin the mood. They moved on, talking about tile choices, backyard space, dog breeds. I chewed cold chicken and stared at my plate, wondering why I ever thought tonight would be different. By the time I left, the sky had deepened into navy. No hugs goodbye, just a wave from Mom and the door clicking shut. The drive home was quiet. No music, just the hum of tires and the sting in my chest. As I pulled into the lot behind my building, the radio host quoted something my dad once said. "Family builds your future." I laughed. A dry, low sound. Yeah, they built mine all right, with locked doors and empty chairs. Upstairs, I flicked on the hallway light. It buzzed, then stayed dim. The ceiling still leaked near the vent. I kicked off my heels, loosened my ponytail, poured a cheap glass of red. I stood there, holding that glass, staring out the window. No big houses, no celebrations, just streetlights and sirens in the distance. "They think I can't own anything," I whispered. Then I smiled. Maybe it's time they're right. Until they're not. I raised my glass to the empty room. Here's to renting smarter. As I set it down, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I glanced at the screen. The property you viewed last month just dropped in price. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. Maybe, just maybe, this was the shift. The sun poured through my blinds like it had something to prove. Warm, relentless, almost smug. I stood barefoot in the kitchen, pouring coffee I didn't even want. The silence in the apartment felt heavier than usual. Not lonely, just still. I sat on the couch, legs folded, holding my mug like a prop. My phone sat next to me, screen dim, almost daring me to look. I picked it up anyway. I shouldn't have. Instagram loaded like it always did, too fast when you least wanted it. A smiling group under string lights, red solo cups in hand. Dexter and Corinne center frame, faces glowing. The caption read, "So happy to celebrate Dexter and Corinne's big step. Love this fam." I scrolled more. My aunt, my cousins, even neighbors from the old block. Laughter in motion, caught mid-cheer, clinking glasses. The same porch I used to sit on every summer. The only sibling not in a single frame was me. They didn't forget. That much was clear now. They made a decision. I wasn't an oversight. I was a line drawn in the sand. My thumb hovered over the screen. No reaction. No comment. Just a quiet, numb recognition. The kind that didn't sting sharply, but spread like cold water down the spine. They'd done this before. The memory came uninvited. My 32nd birthday. I'd made reservations for 6. Only my aunt showed. My mom had called the next day, voice breezy. "Oh, honey, your birthday always falls on a weekday. It's just hard to plan around work." Sure, work. That same excuse didn't seem to apply when it came to Dexter's midweek engagement dinner. I whispered to myself, this didn't start today. I looked around my apartment. Same cracked ceiling, same light that buzzed when I flipped the switch. I'd gotten so used to building a life alone, I started mistaking that silence for peace. By late afternoon, I needed air. I didn't want to sulk. I just needed to move. I threw on jeans, a hoodie, didn't bother with makeup. Drove through the neighborhoods I used to jog in before rent prices tripled. And then I found myself turning toward Dexter's Street. Not to spy, not really. I parked 2 blocks away, pretending to look at a for sale sign taped to a fence, a listing I'd already seen online. The sun glinted off his new windows. Music spilled into the sidewalk, smooth jazz, polite laughter. From a distance, I saw Corinne in a pale dress, holding a tray. Guests sipped wine. Kids darted across the lawn. Lawn chairs circled the front porch. One chair sat empty, centered, clean. I stared at it longer than I should have. I used to think that was my place. That chair at family gatherings, the one reserved without asking. Maybe it never was. I started the car and drove off. Eyes dry, jaw set. Later that evening, back in the apartment, the sky already dim, my phone rang. Janessa. "Hey, where were you today?" she asked, upbeat, like nothing was wrong. "We missed you." I paused. "I wasn't invited." Silence. "You're kidding. I thought maybe you were working or something." Vera. Gideon introduced Dexter as the only successful child in the family. I figured it was a joke. I swallowed. Hard. "Well, I'm glad he's proud of someone." Vera. "I'm fine." After we hung up, I pulled out my journal. No long entry, just one line. "If no one plans a future for you, you build it yourself." I set the journal aside and opened my laptop. The listing from last night was still in my inbox. I clicked it. 3 bedrooms, rough foundation, decent yard, good zip code. I started a list. Pros, cons, budget, timeline. The faint echo of party music still reached my window. Car horns, laughter. Nothing I hadn't heard before. But inside, something different started to settle. They made their choice. Time I made mine. I clicked Apply on the mortgage portal. Filled in my name, address, income. Halfway through, my finger hovered over Submit. Then I hit Save. Not yet. I closed the laptop, sat back, and whispered to no one. Let's see what I'm really capable of. Monday mornings have a way of pretending to be normal. I got to the office early, same as always, coffee in one hand, laptop in the other. People were already in their cubicles, laughing about some weekend story I didn't care to hear. I smiled when they looked at me, because that's what you do. You smile and keep moving. The weekend felt like a bruise that hadn't turned purple yet, just sore when touched. I dove into my emails, answered client calls, checked reports. My assistant, Lila, asked if I wanted to join the team for lunch. Mozzarella sticks can't fix everything, I said with a half smile. She laughed, not knowing that I meant it. All day, I worked like a machine, smooth, efficient, predictable. That's the trick. Keep your rhythm steady and no one asks what's wrong. But somewhere between phone calls and spreadsheet tabs, I caught myself staring out the window. Midtown was buzzing with people heading somewhere, holding coffee cups and big dreams. And I thought, not for the first time, how families can make you feel small enough to disappear, even when you've done everything right. A coworker on the next desk was planning a baby shower. "We're keeping it simple, just family and close friends," she said. The phrase hit me harder than I expected. Just family. I wondered what that still meant for me. When I got home that evening, the sky had dimmed into that quiet blue before sunset. I slipped out of my heels and into my softest sweatshirt, the one that smelled faintly of old perfume and detergent. My phone buzzed with notifications. I ignored most of them until one caught my eye, an email thread from my mother, accidentally forwarded. At first, I thought it was about bills or church events, but then I saw the subject line. Party guest list, final confirmation. My name wasn't there. I scrolled. The thread went back and forth between my mother, Seraphine, and Corinne, my brother's wife. One message from Mom read, "Let's keep it light. She tends to make things awkward." Another from Corinne. "Agreed, it's Dex's day. We don't need tears or tension." My hand froze on the mouse. There was more. A group chat screenshot pasted into the thread. Lowell family planning. A little circle of faces, everyone but me. They were discussing catering, colors, even inside jokes about my emotional timing. "She's not good for the mood," one line read. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink for a long time. Then I quietly forwarded the email to myself, printed it, and circled that one sentence with a red pen. "She's not good for the mood." I laid the paper on my desk, next to my journal. My apartment felt smaller than ever. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. It wasn't the first time. I remembered a barbecue years ago, the one that doubled as my birthday. The cake had been a generic one from the grocery store. When I walked up, it didn't say my name. Just Happy Family Day. I'd asked gently, "Did they get the wrong cake?" Mom had smiled, brushing frosting off her finger. "Oh, honey, it's better this way. No one feels left out." At the time, I nodded. I told myself it was fine, that being easygoing kept the peace. But now, staring at the email, it all clicked. It wasn't about peace. It was about control. "When people ask you to be quiet," I whispered, "they don't mean soft. They mean invisible." I lit a small candle, the one that always burned slower than the rest. The flame flickered as if it understood. I placed the printed email beside it and opened my journal. Let them laugh. Let them plan. I'll build the part they never saw coming. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up the same spreadsheet I'd started over the weekend. I began sorting columns, reworking budgets, looking up real estate listings again. This time, I went deeper, into estate planning, family law, asset protection. If they thought I couldn't build, they were about to find out how wrong they were. "They taught me I don't belong," I murmured. "Now I'll show them I don't need to." I wasn't angry anymore. Just awake. Before shutting down the computer, I drafted a letter, half apology, half declaration. It started with "Dear Mom," but I didn't write to be heard. I wrote to clear the space inside me that they'd cluttered for years. I didn't plan to send it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But putting those words down felt like the first step toward something real. Later, I sat on my couch and played an old voicemail. My grandmother's voice filled the room, warm and crackly. You were always the glue, sweetheart. One day they'll see the cracks aren't from you. They're from what they built. I closed my eyes and let her words wash over me. That message had been sitting in my phone for years. I saved it as my alarm ringtone. That way, every morning would start with her voice, not theirs. They're not the only ones who can plan, I said softly. And then I opened my browser and clicked Schedule a Consultation on a lawyer's website. Not to start a fight, but to understand the ground beneath my feet. I sat cross-legged on my living room floor, same lamp humming softly in the corner, same candle from nights past burning slow and steady. The printed email was beside me, red circle around the phrase they all seemed so comfortable saying. I'd already memorized the tone of their laughter, the weight of their silence. I scrolled through the family group chat again, the one I'd kept muted for years but never left. Messages from the party flooded the screen. Corinne's filtered photos, Dexter holding up keys like a game show host, captions like, keeping it small, and didn't want to overwhelm. Words dressed as kindness, cutting like glass. I whispered aloud, overwhelm who? But the question had no echo. The phone buzzed. A voice note from Seraphine. Just her name made my shoulders tighten. I stared at it for a long moment, debating whether I had the stomach for it tonight. Then I pressed play. Her voice, all smiles and southern sugar. We think giving Dexter the house now is best. Vera's ideas are lovely, of course, but she's not ready yet. Not ready. The words were soft, but the impact, immediate, familiar. It was the same voice from dinners, when she'd lean across the table and say, maybe don't bring up your work stuff, hun. Dex just got promoted, and we're keeping it light. It was the same tone from birthdays, when I asked if I could bring a friend, and she'd pause, glance sideways, then say, let's just keep it family this time. I closed my eyes and swallowed the heat in my chest. The builders outside were still working late, their machines groaning and lifting heavy things I wished I could name. It felt metaphorical, in a way I couldn't quite unpack. I didn't answer the message. Instead, I stood up. My body felt heavier than usual, but I made myself move. Pacing helped. I needed to move, or I'd explode. I drifted into memory. Teenage Vera, standing in the kitchen after winning a regional essay competition. Seraphine had smiled, then said, sweetie, don't outshine your brother too much. Let him have his moments. That was the first time I learned to nod through a slap. How many times, I muttered, have I silenced myself so they could feel safe? I picked up my phone. I wrote a reply in the family chat. I didn't send it. Just needed to see the words. She's not ready. You mean not obedient. You mean not silent. You mean not yours. Then I deleted it. Closed the app. I poured a glass of water, but didn't drink it. Just held it. Something about stillness makes the brain clearer. I pulled out the folder I'd kept tucked under my bed. It held letters, bank records, saved screenshots, and photos I hadn't looked at in years. Quiet proof of all the times they'd said one thing but did another. Not for a fight, not yet. Just to see patterns. I texted Isla, my friend and former roommate. Can we talk tomorrow? Found something serious. Then I opened a new draft in my email, addressed to Seraphine. I didn't plan to send it, but I needed to write it. If you think I'm not ready, that's fine. Watch what I do next. I saved it and closed the screen. I leaned back into the couch and let the silence stretch long. That was always the thing. The silence. Not shouting, not open cruelty, just the sound of being slowly erased. And in that quiet, I started a new message. One line. Why did you deliberately plan for me not to be there? I hovered over send, my thumb resting just above it, not pressing down. Then I closed the phone, placed it face down, and said aloud to no one in particular, if you want to keep using me as your shadow, I'll become your eclipse instead. Janessa's cafe had always smelled like cardamom and burnt toast. Something about it used to calm me. But that afternoon, the calm didn't come. I sat at a corner table, a manila folder resting between my hands. I wasn't shaking, but I was coiled. The kind of stillness right before a crack. Janessa walked in, spotted me, gave that wide cousin smile she always wore when something felt off. "Hey girl," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You all right?" "I need you to see something," I replied. No small talk, no warm-up. I opened the folder, pulled out the printed screenshots, the email thread, the group chat, the comments. I watched her eyes move from line to line, her breath catching on the word awkward, pausing hard on "she's not good for the mood." She didn't speak for a while. When she finally looked up, her face had lost all its color. "I didn't know," she whispered. "You said you missed me at the party," I said evenly. "Now you know why I wasn't there." She reached across the table, touched the edge of the paper. I noticed your name wasn't on some of the earlier texts, but I figured maybe there was a reason, that you were busy, or didn't want to come." "That's the problem," I said. "You all assumed silence meant safety." Her lip quivered, and for a second I saw that same kid from our shared summers, the one who used to sneak me Oreos behind Seraphine's back. "I should have asked," she said. "I should have stood up." I held up a hand. "I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to say this doesn't fix things. It just names them." She nodded, eyes misting. "Okay." And then the door swung open. My spine stiffened before I even saw her. Seraphine. She walked in, chatting with someone behind her, but when her eyes landed on me, and then on the folder, she stopped mid-sentence. "Oh," she said, smile still painted on. "Didn't expect to see you here." I didn't smile back. "You don't expect a lot from me, do you?" Janessa, sensing the shift, stood quietly. "I'll give you 2 a minute," she said, and slipped away toward the back. Seraphine approached the table slowly. She looked at the papers, but didn't acknowledge them. "I hope you're not taking any of that the wrong way," she said, voice honeyed and rehearsed. I looked her dead in the eye. "I heard the voice note, read the emails, saw the jokes." She blinked. "Once. Twice. We just didn't want any drama at the housewarming. That's all." "Drama?" I said, still not raising my voice. "You created drama the moment you started pretending I didn't exist. Now, Vera—" "No," I interrupted. "You don't get to erase people and call that peace." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hand reached for her purse strap, always something to hold on to. "I'm not going to fight you," I said, standing slowly. "But I'm drawing a line." Her brows lifted, curious. "This is the last time I explain my worth," I said. "If you want me around, it won't be on your terms alone." She didn't reply, not a word, but she stepped back, as if space alone would make her feel less guilty. I walked out without looking back. The sunlight outside was sharp and clear. I passed a mural on the wall across the street, painted in bold colors. A single phrase beneath a spray of wildflowers. "Grow anyway." I stopped and stared at it for a full minute. Then I pulled out my phone, opened the family group chat, pressed leave conversation. Then I texted a real estate agent I'd been watching for weeks. "Let's talk options." It was just past 6 on a Friday evening. The sun was still hanging low, casting long stripes across my apartment floor. I was folding laundry, one of those mindless things I do when I need to feel in control. That's when the email came in. Subject line: Update on Dexter's renovation project. Family input. It was a chain. Long. Threaded with pleasantries. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were CC'd. I almost deleted it without reading. But something made me stop. And then I saw it. Near the bottom, nestled between brunch suggestions and a joke about wallpaper. Seraphine's words. "Vera's always had strong emotions. Honestly, I think she's struggling with Dexter's success. I just hope she finds something stable for herself. It's not our job to manage her jealousy." I stared at it for a full minute. Not passive exclusion, not a misunderstanding. This was calculated. Broadcast. To people who didn't know me. Who hadn't seen me since I wore braces and still brought store-bought cookies to the family potluck. Now, I was the unstable, jealous sister, the one they whispered about behind polite smiles, I didn't cry. I forwarded it to a lawyer friend, just in case. Not because I planned to sue, but because I knew the value of a paper trail. And then I sat there, still, angry, yes, but clearer than I'd felt in years. When they can't control you, they'll control how others see you. But not this time. Not anymore. The next day, I scheduled a Zoom call. Said it was to check on Aunt Gloria. She'd had hip surgery 2 weeks prior. That alone guaranteed half the family would show up. Guilt is a reliable RSVP. By 7:30, the squares popped up one by one. Janessa, Dexter, Aunt Marlene from Florida, Cousin Miles with his baby on his lap, and last, Seraphine, hair done, smile polite. I let the greetings play out, then I took a breath. "Before we catch up," I said, "I want to clear something up." My voice didn't shake. I smiled as I clicked share screen. There it was. Her email, big as daylight. I scrolled slowly, letting the words sink in. People fell silent. You could hear the air shift. "I just thought you all deserved to know what's being said behind closed doors," I said. I opened another file, a list of my financial milestones. Loan I paid off for Dexter in 2016, the down payment I helped cover for Mom's old condo, the job offer I turned down to stay close when Dad was sick. Then I opened a screenshot, a message from Seraphine herself 2 years ago. "So proud of your discipline, Vera. You're the glue in this family." No one said a word. Seraphine cleared her throat. "This isn't appropriate." "What's inappropriate," I cut in, "is gaslighting your daughter to save face." The room held its breath. Janessa's square flickered. She was crying. A message popped up from Miles. "I'm so sorry." I had no idea. Dexter stayed quiet. His silence said everything. Seraphine clicked out of the meeting. Gone. I didn't chase it. Didn't need to. Janessa messaged again. "Are you okay?" I typed back. "I'm tired, but I'm done hiding." And I meant it. Later that night, I sent a follow-up email to the group. Just a few family photos. A short story about the time I stayed up all night with Grandma when her arthritis flared. A list of birthdays I never forgot. And one sentence at the end. No one can erase a daughter who remembers everything. Then I opened Facebook, blocked Seraphine, removed her from my contacts. Not out of hate, but to protect whatever pieces of myself I still needed to rebuild. I stared at the blank screen where her number used to be, and just as I exhaled, my phone buzzed. New message. Unknown number. "You think that was the end? You have no idea what I've got planned." I stared at it. No fear. Not this time. I just felt ready. By late Saturday afternoon, the apartment had gone silent, except for the ticking of the old kitchen clock. I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, but my heart still had its own rhythm. Steady, but waiting. The Zoom link blinked on my screen. Everyone was already in. Seraphine's carefully arranged living room, Gideon sipping a soda like he hadn't ghosted me for months, Dexter and Corinne posing like they were doing a commercial for perfect family values. Even a few out-of-town cousins were logged in with polite, unsure smiles. I clicked to join. There was no grand entrance, just my face, clear and centered. I wore a fitted navy blazer. No frills, no color. My voice stayed calm, but I wasn't here for pleasantries. "Vera," Seraphine said, flashing that rehearsed smile. "So good to see you. We were just saying how—" "I'll start," I interrupted. "I only have one question. Why was I never told I was invited to this gathering?" Her smile thinned. Gideon blinked hard like he didn't expect this to go off script. Corinne's face twitched slightly. Too fast to catch unless you were looking. "Oh, it was probably a miscommunication," Seraphine said, smoothing her blouse. "No," I replied. "It was intentional." The room went still. Before another excuse could bubble up, a voice came through the Zoom audio. "Ma'am, we're ready for you." Everyone turned. Marcellus stepped into the frame from Dexter's side, clipboard in hand, calm and deliberate. "Sorry, who was that?" one of the cousins whispered, not muting in time. Marcellus nodded to me through the camera. "The staff's waiting by the rear entrance for your walkthrough, ma'am." I didn't blink. "Thank you, Marcellus. I'll be down shortly." The silence that followed stretched long. "Walkthrough?" Dexter finally muttered. I leaned forward. Yes, this house, this address, is part of a rental property managed by my firm. I own the holding company. Every subcontractor who worked on this renovation was hired through me. Corinne's mouth parted. She started to speak, then stopped. You're saying you arranged the house? Gideon asked, confused. No, I said. I built it. They just posed in it. Seraphine's voice sharpened. That's not what we understood. I know, I said, and clicked my trackpad. My screen shared a folder of documents, invoices, contracts, signed checks with my signature. I paid for more than half of this project. I also secured the interior designer and booked the landscaping firm. Here's the paperwork. Where did you even get these? Corinne snapped. I didn't get them, I replied. I issued them. A low murmur traveled through the Zoom call. There's more, I said. Another click. This time, an email thread, Corinne's name in the sender line. Guest list, keep it low risk. Exclude Vera, don't want tension. Seraphine's face flushed. Dexter looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. You told everyone this was a family celebration, I said, then wrote me off like I was some lawsuit risk. Dexter stuttered. Vera, come on, we didn't mean… You don't get to pretend nothing happened, I cut in. You all erased me behind closed doors, then had the audacity to act warm on camera. I clicked again. The screen now showed two property deeds side by side, one in the company's name, the other detailing my ownership. Then a third window popped open, a chat log, family messages, conversations about me, without me. You knew, I said. You all knew. You just didn't care. Because comfort was easier than truth. Corinne tried to interrupt. I think we've heard enough. No, I said sharply. You'll hear all of it. Final click. The last slide. A photo of the house, taken just before sunset. In bold white text across the front door. Welcome home, ma'am. No one spoke. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I let the moment linger, let them sit in what they created. Then I logged off. Back at my apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I poured a glass of water and sat by the window as my phone buzzed non-stop. Some messages were from cousins. Didn't know. Shocked. Wow. Some were apologies. Most were silent. One was from Isla. That was something. Are you okay? I replied, yeah. The only applause I needed was from my own conscience. Then I added, I think I'm ready to go public. The house, the company, the truth. She texted back a heart. I smiled, but it wasn't soft. It was steady. They thought I'd fade out, I said to the empty room. But all I did was shift the foundation they built their comfort on. Just before bed, I checked my messages one last time. A new one from Corinne. You've crossed a line. Don't test what you can't afford to lose. I stared at it. Then I turned the phone screen down and shut off the light. Sunday started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that settles when something's about to shift. I hadn't even poured my first cup of coffee when I saw it. The subject line bold, sharp. Cease and desist, defamation. It came from Corinne's attorney, and the message was clear. Shut up or face consequences. I read every word twice. Each phrase sounded rehearsed, performative, like they were more afraid of what might be uncovered than anything I'd actually done. I didn't feel fear, just tired. Tired of the games, the rewriting, the posturing. I called Isla. She picked up halfway through the first ring. They're trying to push you into silence, she said. You need someone who knows how to fight fire with foundation. I'm sending you to Marcus Hill. I stared out the window. People who play dirty fear only one thing, I murmured. Sunlight. She didn't argue. After we hung up, I opened my folders. Financial statements, contracts, archived emails. I'd saved more than I realized. Enough to draw a timeline. Enough to tell the story they tried to erase. I wasn't angry anymore. Not visibly. Just grounded. Focused. Like I was finally standing where the line had always been, and refusing to step back. Before noon, I got another message. Unexpected sender. Freya. She'd always kept to herself. Never loud, never involved. Just quiet. Vanilla. The type you don't remember in a group photo. Her message read, "I've had enough of the lies. You deserve to know this." Attached were screenshots, forwarded emails from Seraphine to the family's financial advisors, instructions to liquidate joint assets. Dates matched months when I was deliberately left off calls and threads. Freya had even included banking records showing me listed as a co-signer. Years ago, they had never told me. They knew. They hid it. I sat back, letting it wash over me. Not the betrayal. That part was familiar. What shook me was the timing. "Why now?" I called her. "I can't keep pretending anymore," she said. "They're rewriting everything. You've always been quiet about it, and I thought staying out of it was safer, but now they're pushing too far." I didn't know how to respond. Gratitude didn't come easy these days. "Thank you," I finally said, "but I've learned not all peace offerings come without strings." "There aren't any," she replied. "Just tired eyes and a little bit of conscience." We hung up quietly. No promises made. Later that day, I met Marcus at his office. It wasn't some high-rise firm. It was grounded, sturdy, like the man himself. He flipped through the documents, nodding slowly, deliberately. "You've got a solid case," he said. "We'll start with an injunction. Freeze any financial activity tied to the property. If they're moving assets, it'll stop them cold." "Do it," I said. He slid the power of attorney form across the table. "You ready to put this in writing?" he asked. I signed without blinking. "I'm not suing for money," I said. "I'm suing for truth. And silence. That's already cost me more than enough." He nodded. No pep talk. Just mutual understanding. When I got home, I drafted a letter. Not to send, just to unload. "You raised me to be small, but I outgrew the cage. And now you're afraid of the echo." I stared at the screen for a while before closing it. Then I opened a new email, addressed it to every cousin, uncle, aunt, distant relative, still pretending they didn't know. From this point forward, any communication related to the house, finances, or family matters must go through my attorney. I wish you peace. From a distance. I blocked numbers, changed my passwords, booked a locksmith to rekey my door. By nightfall, I wasn't tired, I wasn't wired, I was still, cold still. I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by files, screenshots, voicemails, all neatly labeled. I didn't care about revenge anymore. I wanted record, and for the first time in years, I slept through the night. No anxiety, no pit in my stomach, just a strange, calm knowing. It's all about to shift. At 10:48 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "We're served. Court date is confirmed. It's game on." I stood outside the courthouse that morning, hands tucked into the pockets of a navy suit I'd had tailored just for this. Not flashy, not soft, just clean lines, like the way I wanted this chapter to end. Marcus stood beside me, calm as always. He didn't offer words. He didn't need to. We'd done our work. Now it was time to let it stand. Inside, the room felt colder than it should have for spring. Corinne showed up, flustered, her mouth tight, hair pulled too sharply back like she was trying to pull herself together from the outside in. My parents were with her. I didn't bother to look too long. Testimonies were given. Freya's documents hit hard, time-stamped, detailed, irrefutable. My own emails laid out the pattern, what I'd known, what I'd questioned, what I'd been denied. Then came the recordings. Short, clipped audio that didn't scream, but exposed. When it was my turn, I spoke once. "I didn't come here for money. I came to set the record straight." Silence followed, and it held. The judge's verdict wasn't theatrical. Just clear. The $15,000 wasn't a gift. It was a concealed disbursement from a joint account, one I had rights to. The court recognized the misrepresentation. I was awarded a legal settlement, and a formal apology was ordered. It didn't feel like a win. It felt steadying, like standing on dry land after years of being told the flood never happened. Outside, Corinne approached. She handed me a check for $20,000. I didn't even look at the numbers. "I want to put this behind us," she said. I handed it back. Justice isn't a refund. It's the end of distortion. My parents hovered nearby. My mother tried to step in for a hug, arms out like we were still playing pretend. I gave her a nod. Nothing more. There was no shouting, no slamming of doors, just a quiet shift in gravity. Sometimes closure doesn't come with confetti, just clean exits. By dusk, I was halfway upstate. The lake cabin sat quiet, just as I remembered it from childhood. The wood creaked the same. The old kettle still whistled too soon. I lit a fire, poured a cup of tea, and pulled out a notebook. That night, I wrote without censoring, about my brother and the summers we swam until our lips turned blue, about how the water used to carry us both before it only carried him. You can miss someone and not want them back. You can forgive and not reinvite. I reread a letter I'd written to my younger self years ago. It started with, "I hope you keep asking questions even when they hate you for it." I smiled, small, but real. The next morning, back at my apartment, I emailed Marcus. I want to donate part of the settlement. Set up a scholarship for women rebuilding after betrayal. That felt right. Then I filed for lease to own on the apartment, the place I once only rented in case I had to leave. I was going to make mine. Knock down the half wall, paint the kitchen something bright, make room for something new. I didn't announce any of it. No grand farewell speeches, just gentle distancing. One by one, I let ties dissolve. I didn't argue or explain. I just stopped replying. Isla and I had lunch 2 days later. Over sandwiches and laughter, she floated the idea. You know what'd be powerful? A podcast. Your story, other stories, real ones, no sugarcoating. I paused, then nodded. Let's do it. Later that week, I started planning a trip. Just me. I couldn't decide between the mountains of Montana or the stillness of Maine. Both whispered of space, of something unclaimed. Before I left, I stood by the lake again, morning fog curling low across the surface. In the end, I said out loud, not to anyone, it wasn't the party I wasn't invited to that defined me. It was the home I built with truth. The silence didn't feel like absence anymore. It felt like ownership. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back.